Now she, if I remember rightly, started to settle down now. So now I come in and paint her. Bit of cerulean blue for her toy. Not sure what it is. And she's slightly pinker, lighter flesh. So I'm not going to go for quite the same strength of colour as on the adults. I'm using very pale cadmium red, and then I'm just going to take it off. Oh, I forgot her white socks. Oh, look at her little white socks. And then this lovely Windsor green, picking up this packet that she's holding just there, coming down to mark between the legs. You'll find that when something attracts you, when it's lit, it is the pattern of light and shade. Although people are interesting to paint at any time, when they're lit by the sun, their forms become so interesting. And watercolour just has this ability to create light, to create just life. I think people are probably the most exciting subject to paint in watercolour. The secret is to keep that brush moving so you don't make them static. What often happens when people work from photographs, painting figures, is that their figures become static because they've got time. Suddenly we've got all the time in the world to paint this painting. But you have to think as if you were outside, as if those people are going to move. Set yourself a time limit. Say, right, these people aren't going to sit here very long. I've only got half an hour. I've got to paint these people. And again, the light's catching the top of her head, so I leave that as a light from a background wash. Haven't got time to put that in right now. She may move any minute. I like the crisp shadows because I'm going to have to let that dry because otherwise I'm going to lose that lovely green. I'm going to push back a little bit more yellow into this. If the colour floods too far, bring back the colour that it's flooded into and it will push it back the other way. The bench looks bluer on this side, doesn't it? Actually, it's very interesting the way the light was hitting the dark shape of the bench. Let's come in with that Prussian blue again. Nice and dark, a little bit of burnt sienna in it. I'm switching between burnt sienna and Indian red. The Indian red is opaque, so if I mix that with the Prussian blue, it's coming up a little bit dead, so I'm going back to the good old faithful burnt sienna. And these lovely shapes of the bench, lovely Victorian pattern. Brush can pick up perfectly. Let's have a look at it. It comes round. Round here. Oh, beautiful pattern. I think there's a twirly thing in there. But the main thing is just to create a feeling of a pattern. Oh. Brushes are so wonderful, aren't they? And now we come down, it's casting quite a shadow in the ground. And this is going to help create her feet and her little shoes, picking up some ultramarine blue. Once again, I'm letting the shadow of the shoe run in to the shadow that she's casting. And we need a bit of shade on this shady side to bring out her socks. She's got nice wrinkles in her socks. Now that I wouldn't have picked up, I don't think, without the photograph. And she's casting a dark shadow on the bench. Her coat is now dry, so I can now get that lovely, lovely shape that she's casting on there. The 3-dimension of the arm of the bench is brought out by creating shadow against her, or on her, I should say. Oh, I'm going to mix this Prussian with this Windsor green. What a divine colour. Let's make this lovely shape under her. And once again, it's the shape of the shadow on her clothing that makes her form. And she sort of dissolves into the blue of the bench, into the shadows cast. And let's just plunge that yellow and Windsor green in again. I think my favourite thing about this group of people was her green coat. A sort of apple green, but it just sort of shimmered in the light. Little shadow cast on her leg by the coat. This green bag between her legs just creates strength. And a bit of tint on her face. And now we need to use the background grass, the background green, to bring out the shapes of light. I used the aureolin that I was using with the Windsor green, and I think I'm going to use the Prussian blue. I need it sunny, but not too garish, but it is the colour of light. It is light. So let's try this colour here and bring it up against all the areas of light to create a feeling of them sitting in this park. Just let's bring out the fingers in the hand. Oh, I think they're catching more light than the light red is giving me, so a little bit more red in the mixture. Just a couple of lines. We're not trying to paint the hand, we're just trying to get the feeling of a hand. And this orange, we want a little hint, there's something in her hand, catching the light, and something in his hand there. We're using this background now. You can see that in the photograph, you can see there's quite a bit of shadow behind. But for the minute, I'm just bringing the green behind because it's not really the background that matters. It's only the fact that it brings out the light. We're using the grass, the background grass, to bring out the lights on the figures. Here we can catch the light on top of the seat, on the top of the armrest, and to bring out her feet. Oh, she's got nice red shoes. I'm going to have to bring a bit of red in there. I'm just going to indicate the lovely tree, because they're sitting in a park. I think just the hint of the fact that there's leaves and trees behind, and we can take advantage of the fact that there's shadows and bring them up against the lights to strengthen these highlights. So wherever you increase the contrast of light and shade, you'll increase that bounce of light. And then the foreground path, pick one of the colours that you've already used. I think taking the cadmium red and a bit of the burnt sienna makes a nice feeling for this path. Again, it's going to bring out these feet in the foreground. Oh, it's picking up some of that cadmium orange now. Her shoes. I just like her red shoes. Any excuse to use red. But we're only painting the shadow of red. Where the red is lit, it's very light. So it's just, oh, she's got straps up her. So you wouldn't see, I mean, that's the kind of thing where it's fun when you work from a photograph, because you see all these extra things which are rather fun to paint. Let's just create the top of his shoe with a bit of grass, a bit of grass, it's grass, but it's shade because we're bringing out the light of that foot. Right, the shadow on the ground, paint's probably not dry, so we go in with fairly dry colour. Prussian blue to create the dappled light, that feeling of being in a park. Leave spaces between the wash. Let's just have a look at the relationship between, I think, his crease in his trousers. It's just making the top of his leg bounce down a bit. But what you mustn't do is get carried away with that photograph, because if you get carried away with the detail in the photograph, you will overwork your picture and it won't look fresh or as if it's painted outside. The main thing to remember if you're painting people from photographs is not to feel the need to overwork it. Keep it fresh and lively.
Now available on DVD. Try these techniques yourself at home whenever you wish. Today's workshop is now available to order on DVD from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.